So, for the past 4 years, I have not been in touch with my brother. It all happened because I found out that he had been helping my ex-wife keep her affair secret from me. My ex-wife and my brother worked together, and my brother knew that she had been having an affair with their boss. He had known it throughout the whole thing, and it broke my heart that he had never told me about it, because it was convenient for him, since he and my ex-wife kept getting perks at work. My ex-wife for having the affair, my brother for helping her keep everything under wraps and keeping me in the dark. It really shattered me, because my brother and I grew up as the best of friends, and I could never see it coming from him. In fact, he was the one who had set me up with my ex-wife in the first place. And after about 2 years of dating, we got married. He was the best man at my wedding, and yet he chose to turn a blind eye and help that woman ruin our marriage. I wouldn't even have found out about it, but I had started feeling a bit suspicious when my wife started behaving a bit weirdly and cold towards me. So I decided to go through her phone, and I found out that not only had she been having an affair with her boss for about a year, she was also pregnant with his baby, and that's why she was acting so cold, because she was about to file for a divorce. It was horrible. And the divorce was pretty ugly, so just to spite me, she told me about how my brother had been helping her out all along. And when I confronted him about it, he didn't even deny it. That was 4 years ago, and since then, we have not spoken to each other. My parents have tried to make things right on several occasions, but it's never worked. In fact, I don't even attend family events anymore because I don't want to see him. And the rest of the family is understanding enough about it, thankfully. So yeah, I haven't seen or spoken to my brother in many years now. However, thanks to my parents, I do know that he got married last year to his girlfriend of 5 years, and recently they found out that they were pregnant. My parents wanted me to reconcile with him because he was starting a new chapter of his life, and they wanted me to at least congratulate him and talk to him, but I refused. However, I changed my mind later, and I will tell you guys exactly why. There's a pretty popular restaurant in town, which is a convenient distance from my workplace and one of my most frequent clients. So we choose to meet there to discuss business matters, and there happens to be an IVF clinic right opposite that place. And I had seen my brother's wedding photos, so I knew how his wife looks. I guess you guys already know where I'm going with this. And yes, that's exactly what happened. Since I visit that restaurant pretty frequently, I had seen her visiting the clinic a couple of times. And I found it pretty bizarre considering the fact that she was married and she was visiting an IVF clinic without her husband. I mean, I'm not saying that as an adult woman she can't, but wouldn't it have been advisable for my brother to have accompanied her on these visits for moral support at least, in the beginning? I did not think much about it. But then one time my mother brought up the fact that my brother and his wife was struggling with fertility issues, and he was getting tested. She was pretty worried about it, and this was just a few weeks after I saw her going to the clinic for the first time. So I started connecting the dots, and then of course, a couple of weeks later I found out that she was finally pregnant, and my mother was incredibly happy. My parents wanted me to reconcile, and in the beginning I decided against it, but later on I changed my mind because I realized that I could finally get back at my brother for what he did to me. And yes, maybe it was petty, but what he did was wrong as well. So yeah, for the past couple of months throughout my sister-in-law's pregnancy, I've been pretending like I know nothing, and she's pretty unsuspecting as well. I've been acting like my brother is my friend, and instead, like I want to reconcile and we can go back to our old relationship, and he's been trying to defend himself too, which is pretty sad, because if he hadn't tried to defend himself and justify what he had done all those years back, then I might have actually forgiven him. Unfortunately, that's not what happened, and a few days back, when his wife went into labor, I finally decided to drop the bomb and tell him all about the IVF clinic visits. My parents were the ones who had informed me about exactly when my sister-in-law went into labor, and that's when I chose to call him up and tell him everything that I knew. Of course, he immediately started telling me that I was lying and just trying to stir up trouble because I was bitter that his life had worked out and mine hadn't. But I didn't even bother to argue with him because I knew that eventually he wouldn't be able to get this out of his head and he would have to confront his wife. I chose my timing very carefully, and just as I had expected, right after his wife had given birth, he decided to demand a paternity test, and because his wife was getting iffy and annoyed, he confronted her to ask her regarding the IVF clinic stuff, and she had no other option but to tell him the truth. Honestly, I think I got kind of lucky because I was just shooting in the dark, but my suspicion turned out to be correct because the baby was actually not his at all. She had opted for IVF with an anonymous donor because they had been struggling to conceive for quite a while, and she couldn't wait anymore, and he had refused to get tested several times. So she felt like she had no other option because she really wanted a baby. So now there's a lot of trouble in the family, and she's been staying with her parents ever since the baby was born. Nobody knows what's going to happen because both of them are just playing the blame game right now. And my parents are blaming me for all of this, telling me that none of this would have happened if I did not open my big mouth just to get revenge. They are saying that I'm petty, selfish, and what I did was downright psychotic. My parents have told me they don't want me to be a part of the family anymore, and I'm honestly fine with that. But I don't like the fact that the blame is falling onto me. My parents were upset when they found out that my brother had been helping my ex-wife cover up her affair for the sake of his own career, but they had never been so upset like they are right now. And I think that's a bit hypocritical because at least here I was not covering up anybody's cheating or whatever. And I think I actually did him a favor by telling him the truth. Yeah, maybe it was not right of me to keep this a secret for so long and tell him when the baby was being born. That was not cool, but well, what he did to me was not cool either. So I guess we are even now. I just don't understand how I'm supposed to be the bad guy because after what happened to me, I think this is justified. So AITA for telling my brother the truth about his baby's true paternity? Update 1. Okay, so hi everyone. By now, pretty much everybody else in the family knows what has happened, and the family is pretty divided. Some of them think that what I did was totally uncalled for, and that many years had passed since the incident with me, so I should have moved on, and even if I didn't move on, I shouldn't have gone out of my way to make things so difficult for everyone. And the rest think that what I did was totally justified, that my parents should step back and think about things from my perspective as well, instead of getting so defensive. So right now, things are pretty intense, but I'm glad that there are some people at least who are on my side here. Even if they were not, I don't think that I can do anything right now to fix whatever has happened because I did what I had to do. And I'm not going to sit and regret it since I remember how terrible things had been after I got divorced. My ex-wife was somebody I believed was my soulmate, and my brother was my best friend. So for them to have betrayed me like this really broke me, and even now, I've had a very tough time trusting people. I haven't even been able to have a long-term relationship after that. Even if I've tried to make it work, my trust issues are always ruining it, and that's all thanks to them. So yeah, they've made my life pretty difficult, and I'm not going to sit and regret what's happening. I did what I had to. That's it. Update 2. So from what I've heard, there is legal trouble brewing for the family as well, because apparently My brother decided that he was going to sue the clinic for not doing their due diligence, but he found out that apparently she had claimed that she was unmarried, and obviously it's not exactly common practice for clinics to conduct background checks to confirm whether a client is married or not. His wife was the one who had actually lied, committed fraud, basically, and they have no idea what's going to happen. I mean, it would make sense for both parties to just come to a settlement out of court, but let's see what happens. Anyway, I only know about this because my parents are blaming me for all of it, telling me that I'm the cause of all this stress because if I hadn't done this, maybe my sister-in-law would have had the opportunity to come clean to her husband on her own, and my brother wouldn't be under so much stress. I don't understand how that's my fault, but anyway. I guess they just need somebody to blame for all of this, and it's convenient to put it all on me. So that's why they're doing it. I don't mind. I don't really care anymore. I think I'm just going to block them and move on with my life now. I have given enough of my time, energy, and thoughts to my family and how they are feeling about everything. But the truth is, if I'm not going to care, then I should probably commit to that and just cut them out. I'm going to miss my parents, that's for sure, but clearly they don't value me as much as their other son, so whatever. They have made their choice and I'm going to make mine. At the end of the day, everybody is just looking out for themselves, so if they think I'm being selfish, so be it. I think I'm finally just picking myself and my own happiness, and if that does not sit right with them, that's their problem, not mine. Update 3. Hey, so 3 months have passed since my previous update, and my parents have stopped bothering me, and as it is, I did not have any contact with my brother, so things have been pretty calm. But then a couple of days ago, I received a message from my brother telling me that he was very disappointed in everything that had happened because he had truly started to believe that we might be moving on from everything. Apparently, before the whole paternity fiasco, while we were bonding, he actually thought that I had forgiven him. But to find out that I had been pretending all along, that was pretty hard for him. And he wanted me to know that, even though he never wants to speak to me again, he has forgiven me. I mean, it's just completely bizarre that he's forgiving me when I have not even asked for it. It was pretty annoying, but now I just think it's funny that he thinks that I'm desperate to be forgiven by him, which I'm most certainly not. I don't understand why he would send me an email like this after so many months, especially when we have not even been in contact. He could have just let this whole thing go, but whatever. Anyway, I don't really care anyway. I'm just going to laugh it off and let it go because it's not worth it to reply to him and to start something up once again. Also, it's funny that he should think that we had sorted things out when he had not apologized even once. He had only kept trying to justify himself and whatever he did, and yet he thought that I had actually forgiven him. I mean, I'm not a fool. But anyway, he can believe whatever he wants to. This whole family is just weird, and that's what I think. Update 4. Hey, so after my previous update, there were a lot of questions about whether my brother and his wife had sorted things out or not, and well, yes. Eventually they decided to stay together and get counseling or whatever. The bottom line is, they are still together. I found out from a couple of relatives, and yes, the people who had been on my side after all this, they are still on my side. So grateful for that. I'm grateful that there are people who actually care about me. And there were a lot of people who asked whether I do miss my parents even now or not. And of course the answer is yes. They are my parents after all. They raised me. Of course I'm going to miss them. But then again, there's nothing I can do about the situation right now. Story 2. So this whole mess started 3 years ago when my dad married my stepmom. I was 21 and her daughter Stella was 23. From day one, Stella made it clear she saw me as competition for everything. Our parents' attention, family money, you name it. It didn't help that my dad owned a successful Italian restaurant downtown that had been in our family for 2 generations. Stella always acted superior, making comments about how I was riding on my dad's coattails and didn't deserve the life I had. Meanwhile, I was working my butt off, learning the restaurant business. I started as a server at 16 and worked up to assistant manager and was handling most day-to-day operations by 22. Stella never knew the extent of my involvement. To her, I was just some spoiled kid who occasionally helped at Daddy's business. She had no idea I was basically running the place alongside my dad, handling schedules, inventory, vendor relationships, and training staff. We kept it low-key because my dad believed in earning respect through work, not titles. Last October, my dad had a massive heart attack and passed away suddenly. I was devastated, but I had to step up immediately because the restaurant couldn't just shut down. We had employees depending on their jobs and loyal customers. The will was straightforward. I inherited the restaurant and house, while my stepmom got substantial life insurance and other assets. Stella got a decent inheritance too, but was furious I got the restaurant. She started spreading rumors that I'd manipulated Dad into leaving me the business, that it wasn't fair since she was older and that I was too inexperienced to run it. What she didn't know was that Dad had been planning this transition for months. We'd already started paperwork to make me a co-owner, and I'd been handling most business decisions for the past year. Running the restaurant while grieving was incredibly hard, but I kept it profitable. I promoted our head chef to kitchen manager, hired a new assistant manager, and implemented modernization plans Dad and I had discussed. The restaurant was actually doing better than ever. 2 months ago, Stella started dating this new guy who apparently comes from money. She's been posting constantly about expensive dates, designer clothes, luxury vacations. It was obvious she was showing off, probably to prove she was more successful than me. Then last Friday happened. It was one of our busiest nights and I was doing my usual thing, making sure everything ran smoothly. I always dress professionally but not fancy, just black slacks and a nice blouse. Around 7:30 I noticed our hostess seating for young women at one of our best tables. I glanced over and nearly dropped my wine glasses. It was Stella with 3 friends, all dressed like they were going to some high-end club. I could tell Stella was in full show-off mode. I decided to stay in the back and let our regular servers handle their table. I wasn't avoiding her exactly, but didn't want drama during dinner rush. Our server, Mike, took their order and everything seemed fine for the first hour. Around 8:45, I had to come out because of an issue with another table's order. As I walked past Stella's table, one of her friends spotted me and said something to her. Stella turned around, and I could see the exact moment she recognized me. Her face went through surprise, confusion, and then anger. She stood up, marched over, clearly agitated. She started going off about how I was trying to humiliate her by pretending to be just a server when I was actually the owner. She said I was purposely keeping her in the dark to make her look stupid in front of her friends, and that I was trying to make her seem less wealthy than she actually was. She was talking loud enough that other customers were staring. I tried explaining I wasn't pretending anything, that I always worked the floor during busy nights, and that I had no idea she was even coming. But she was convinced that I had some master plan to embarrass her. She kept saying how I was jealous of her success and new relationship, how I was trying to sabotage her. The whole thing was bizarre because first, I had no idea she was coming. Second, even if I had known, why would I care about impressing her friends? Third, She was acting like I was supposed to announce myself as the owner to every customer, which would be weird and unprofessional. Her friends looked mortified, and other customers were definitely watching. I finally managed to get her to lower her voice by suggesting we step into the office privately, but she refused. She said she wasn't going to let me manipulate the situation further, paid their bill dramatically, and stormed out with her friends trailing behind. The confrontation lasted maybe 10 minutes, but felt like an hour. After they left, I spent the rest of the night dealing with curious customers and getting my staff back on track. Mike was totally confused since he had no idea about our family drama. Next morning, I woke up to angry texts from Stella accusing me of planning the whole thing, saying I was a manipulative snake who couldn't stand seeing her happy, and threatening to tell our parents about my unprofessional behavior. I talked to my stepmom later, and she seemed genuinely confused. She said Stella had mentioned going to a nice restaurant but hadn't said it was my place. My stepmom also pointed out that Stella has been under stress lately, trying to keep up with her boyfriend's lifestyle. But here's what really bothers me. Stella has always resented me, but this felt different. It was like she genuinely believed I'd orchestrated some elaborate scheme, when the reality is I barely think about her anymore. I'm too busy running a business to worry about petty family drama. I keep wondering if I handled this wrong. Should I have approached their table when I first saw them? Should I have told Mike to mention I was the owner? Was I unconsciously avoiding her, making it worse? Or was this just Stella being Stella, looking for reasons to be offended? I don't want this to become an ongoing family feud. My dad would have hated seeing us fight like this. But I also don't think I should apologize for doing my job and running my business how I see fit. So Reddit, AITA for not announcing myself as the owner when my stepsister came to my restaurant? Was I wrong for just doing my job instead of making a big deal about who I was? I honestly can't tell if I'm missing something here or if Stella just created drama where none existed. Update 1. 3 days later, I thought everything had blown over. Stella hadn't texted again, and my stepmom said she seemed to be moving on. Then Tuesday afternoon, I got a call from my stepmom asking if I could come over to talk. She sounded stressed. When I got there, she explained that Stella had been digging into the restaurant's finances and our family's assets since Dad died. Stella had convinced herself that I must have hidden money or manipulated the will because she couldn't believe I'd legitimately inherited a successful business at 24. She'd been asking my stepmom about Dad's financial records, trying to access bank statements, and even called the estate lawyer about contesting the will. My stepmom seemed embarrassed telling me this, but felt I needed to know. She also mentioned that Stella's boyfriend had been encouraging her, suggesting there might be money she was entitled to that I was keeping from her. I was shocked. The restaurant was profitable, but we weren't sitting on massive fortune. Most value was in property, equipment, reputation, not liquid assets. Everything had been handled legally through probate court. My stepmom asked if I'd sit down with Stella and show her business records to prove everything was legitimate. I wasn't thrilled, but agreed to put this nonsense to rest. We set up a meeting for Thursday at my stepmom's house. I brought copies of financial statements, the will, probate documents. But when Stella showed up with her boyfriend, I knew this wouldn't go well. This guy had an attitude from the moment he walked in, judging everything. He immediately started asking aggressive questions about business valuation, why I got the restaurant instead of equal shares, whether there were other unaccounted assets. I tried explaining that Dad left it to me because I'd been running it, that Stella had never shown interest in food service, and that she'd received proportional inheritance. But this boyfriend kept pushing, suggesting there must be offshore accounts or hidden real estate because successful restaurants are always fronts of money laundering. And that's when I realized this wasn't about Stella feeling cheated. This was about her trying to impress this guy who came from serious money. By the end, Stella was convinced I was hiding something, and her boyfriend was talking about hiring a private investigator. I left feeling frustrated and hurt. They'd already decided I was the villain, and no documentation would change their minds. This whole situation was getting way out of hand, and I had no idea how much worse it was about to get. Update 2. 2 days after that meeting, everything went sideways. Saturday morning, while doing inventory, my phone started blowing up. Stella's boyfriend had posted some rant on social media about corrupt small business owners who steal from families and exploit workers. He didn't mention me by name, but included enough details that anyone who knew our situation would know exactly who he meant. He posted photos of the restaurant's exterior, talked about nepotism in family businesses, and suggested people be careful where they spend money. Within hours, the post was shared dozens of times, and people started leaving negative reviews on our social media. Most were obviously fake, people who'd never eaten there, making vague accusations. Our rating dropped from 4.8 to 3.2 stars in one afternoon. I was panicking because this could seriously damage our business. People were canceling reservations based on some rich kid's social media tantrum. I tried calling Stella, but she wouldn't answer. Finally, I called my stepmom in tears, and she was horrified when she saw the posts. Immediately drove to Stella's apartment to confront her. Stella claimed she had no idea her boyfriend was planning to post anything, but wasn't willing to ask him to remove it. And that's when my stepmom really lost it. She told Stella she was ashamed of her behavior, that she was jeopardizing my livelihood over jealousy, and that there would be serious consequences for their relationship if she didn't fix this. By Sunday morning, all posts were deleted, and Stella's boyfriend posted a vague apology. I spent the weekend responding to fake reviews and doing damage control. Ironically, the drama backfired. Several long-time customers heard what happened and came in to show support. We had one of our busiest weeks ever. I was exhausted but relieved that we'd survived the attack on our reputation. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over yet. Update 3. Yesterday, my stepmom called me with some unexpected news. Stella and her boyfriend broke up. Apparently, his family found out about all the drama on social media and weren't happy. They told him they'd cut off his allowance if he didn't stop stirring things up, and that's when Stella realized he wasn't as successful or dependent as he'd made himself out to be. He was actually still relying on his parents financially. Needless to say, she felt pretty deceived, and on top of that, she'd already caused a lot of damage between herself, me, and my stepmom, just to defend a guy who turned out to be a fraud. Now she's single, embarrassed, and dealing with the fallout of her own actions. My stepmom told me she's been crying and really wants to apologize, but she's too ashamed to reach out now. Honestly, the whole situation has taught me a lot about family, business, and knowing when to draw the line. Stella let her jealousy and insecurity get the better of her, and in the end, it hurt her more than anyone else. I don't know if we'll ever have a real relationship after this, and that's okay. I've got other priorities like my restaurant, the team that counts on me every day, and the customers who trust me to do right by them. My dad used to say that success isn't about what other people think of you. It's about showing up for the people who truly matter. I think he'd be proud of how I handled everything. The restaurant's doing better than ever. Our reputation bounced back, and more importantly, I've realized I'm a lot stronger than I gave myself credit for. As for Stella, I do hope she figures things out one day. The happiness doesn't come from trying to compete with others or impressing the wrong kind of person, but that's her journey to work through, not mine to fix. I've got my own life to focus on, and honestly, it's shaping up pretty well. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.